What if there was an easy way to get great results in editing your images in 2 clicks in ON1 Photo RAW, and you don't have to use Brilliant's AI? Is that something you would be interested in? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to show you how you can set up your own presets to really get 2-click editing inside of ON1 Photo RAW, and then maybe make a few minor adjustments. Let's go. So here we are inside of ON1 Photo RAW, and I just have a series of images available right at this moment. And I just want to show you how simple this technique is. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click this image up here, just so that way we can take a look at it. And this is a raw image. Now, I want to be clear that this technique I created, or at least that I'm using, it is developed for raw photos, all right? But you can use it on JPEG images if that's all that you have, or if that's your preference to photograph in. But if you are afraid of shooting in RAW, well, hopefully this will help you break that barrier, all right? So what I did is I created a preset, and I broke the rules, so to speak, when it came to creating presets. I decided to only create develop module presets. And so what that means is whenever I select one of these, I'm just going to select this natural punch one, or neutral punch, I should say. And you'll notice that over here in the tone and color section, I have adjustments made here. So I'm using the ON1 neutral camera profile, and then I went ahead and made some adjustments down here. And these are global adjustments. So what that means is it's going over the entire image. So if you're brand new to editing, just think of how easy this is for you to get consistent results by applying this particular preset. And then you could end here. You could stop right here, right? But I promised you 2 clicks. So inside of ON1, for the longest time, many creators, myself included, that were making preset packs would say, don't include the develop module presets and only include the effects presets. All right. So if you made a look and you wanted to save it as a preset, I would always say, don't include the develop module settings, only include the settings that you've created over here in the effects. Well, now, because I didn't add any effects over here, and if I follow true with the same model, then what I could do is come over to one of my preset packs, or a preset pack, where I know that there's only effects. So for those who want to follow along and try this on their own images, because I'm not supplying a image for download at this moment, but you know, if you've watched some of the previous videos, you can just use one of those images and test this out. But I really want you to try it on your own photos, because that's what is going to help you become a better editor overall. So I'm going to click on minimalist because this comes standard with ON1 Photo RAW. And now I can just click on any one of these presets, and I'm hovering over them just to sample, see which one I want to apply. So let's say I like this one. All right. Now it's a little strong, but don't worry. Remember, I told you 2-click editing. So far, we've already made our 2 clicks. So we're going to go a little bit further than 2 clicks. But the point here is you didn't have to learn a whole lot of complicated sliders and things of that sort. That's really what I want to show you. All right. So now this is the before, and this is what we've gotten so far. And you may not like this, right? So perhaps it's just too strong of a preset. I can just go ahead and pull down on my opacity here and kind of bring back some of that information that was getting lost. But look, in a very relatively short amount of time, I was able to get something that I would consider a good image. Is this perfect? Absolutely not. We've only made global edits. But if you're not familiar or comfortable with masking, and you just want to get something on the image and have it a little bit more stylized than what comes straight out of camera, well, this is a great way of being able to do that. Now, if you want to go a little bit further, all right, this is for my adventurous people out there. you can come back over to develop, and you can actually modify all of these settings because this is all non-destructive, and essentially you are creating your own recipes to come back and further refine based off of the image you're working on. So let's say I think that this image is a little too dark overall. Well, I can just come over to the exposure slider and I can pull that up, and look, it's brightening up the image, and I like what it's doing there. Maybe I want a little bit more color over the entire image. Well, I can come down to the saturation slider and I can just push the saturation slider up until it gets to a point where I'm comfortable with. And the list goes on and on about what you can do. But literally in a short amount of time, I went from this to this, which is a stylized image, good, bad, indifferent. It's all based off of your own personal preference, but it didn't take long, and I didn't have to do a whole lot of masking or anything that's complicated or what many people tell me is intimidating. Now, for those of you who want to go even further with this technique, well, what you can do is click on local, and then you can start making your localized masking adjustments. So you just hit add and you go to town. So maybe I want to darken everything around this waterfall. So I'm just going to hit the letter M on my keyboard to get the masking bog. And I'm just going to click right here in the center, pull up to make it a little bit smaller, resizing that there. And then I can just pull that out. And now I've essentially made like a vignette around the waterfall, because that's the main feature of this particular image. Your photo is going to be different, but that's the point of practicing on your own images. I didn't do a whole lot of work to get to this point, from the image coming straight out of camera up to this point. All right. That's the beauty of this. So let me show you how to set all of this up. We're going to go ahead and reset everything on this image. So I'm just going to hit the reset button, hit OK. And now we are back to our raw image with nothing added to it. All right. And this is something you're going to want to do for your own images and based off of the style that you're going for. All right. But if you want, you can always use other people's presets or whatever you want to do. But here's my recommendation for getting started. You come over to the develop module and you go through your camera profiles. I think I like the ON1 landscape for this particular image. Don't worry, you got to test this on other images, so we're going to do that in a little bit. But once I select my camera profile landscape for ON1 landscape, then I need to start making those adjustments that I want to see in the image. So I want to go for a little bit more of a brighter, punchy image. All right. So what I'm going to do is open up the shadows first off, because in my example image here, the shadows were just a little too dark for me. And then I'm probably going to push the midtones up a little bit as well, because that's going to help with overall brightness in the image. And I could just stop right there. So I think I will. And because I'm going to be working with raw images, again, I created these to work with raw images. And if your mindset is JPEGs only, then just know that by pushing these sliders too far to the right, you may be introducing some extra tonal banding issues when you push them too far to the right. So don't go too far. But for a raw image, we usually have a lot of wiggle room just because of the pure information inside of a raw image. All right, so I'll go ahead and push the structure up a little bit, because most raw images, they need some structure. I think 9 to 10 is a safe place for most images, just to make sure that, you know, they're going to be edited quite well. But you could go a little bit further if you so choose. All right. And then the next thing is probably going to be some color. So I'm just going to push the saturation up so that way we can really see how this works with other images. Now, a note when it comes to color, all right? I typically teach, there's two ways of editing the images, or two steps to editing our images. The first one is the tonal range or contrast in the image. And that's just the brightness values from the darkest point to the brightest point in your photo. And then the second thing is color. And the thing that affects the color a lot, I won't say the most, but it definitely sets the tone for color. And I guess tone is probably a bad way of illustrating that, but the thing that matters for color is your white balance. With raw images, you can reset your white balance during the editing process. For these particular presets that I am going to show you how to make, I recommend leaving your white balance set to as shot. And what that allows you to do is you can establish the white balance that you like in camera. So that way, when you bring it back into ON1, you don't have to worry so much about the white balance. Now, if the white balance is off just a little bit, or maybe you shot it in auto white balance and you didn't quite like what you got from there, then by all means, you'll be able to come back in here and you could pull your white balance. If I wanted this to be warmer or cooler, you can see I can adjust this however I want, but it plays a huge role in the way that your image is going to look. Now I'm just going to reset this to as shot, because my recommendation for these presets, you should always keep them set to as shot, and then only make the adjustment on the image when you're editing. All right. Just a suggestion, but you do what you want with your own presets, because, you do you. So once that's all done, then what we're going to do is click on this little rectangle with a downward arrow in it. And this is going to give us the ability to save the preset. Now, I'm going to drop mine inside of this folder that says generic develop, because these are my generic develop presets that I'm working on for my own personal collection. If you would like to get access to these, let me know in the comment section below. Just say develop settings and I will figure out how to get these out there. But as of right now, I'm not looking to purchase them or sell them, I should say. I just want to show people how you can use ON1 Photo RAW, and then you go and do your thing with it. That being said, you will give it a name. So we're going to call this one bright color. And then I'll select a category. Typically, you will probably have to hit add new category, but for me, I have the FWP testing ground, and then inside of there, I have generic develop, right? So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go ahead and click this off to the side because it's already on there. And then I'm going to use just develop. So everything in this drop down, or in this dialog box, I should say, should not have anything in it except for right here where it says develop. And then I'm going to hit the little drop down arrow. And what do I want to include in this develop setting? Well, I don't need Brilliance AI because I'm not using that. You could use Brilliance AI if that's what you're into and you want to do that, but I'm teaching how you can get good looks even without using Brilliance AI. And then you can come into tone and color, and let me just resize this box. That way we get a little bit more real estate here. All right, so we have the color and tone, and then we have the camera profile. Because I changed the camera profile over here, I definitely want to make sure that I keep that camera profile bubble filled in. And then for the tone, I want to make sure that I have all of these filled in for tone. So let's say only some of these were filled in. You would see that this little tone bubble is only halfway full. So if I click it once, the bubble next to tone, it's going to fill it all the way up. And that means that all of these options are selected. And this is what's making the look for the image. So I definitely want to make sure that I have all of those in there. And then we have color. So for color, we have white balance, saturation, all that good stuff. And I'm leaving my white balance to as shot. And I want to make sure that that is what translates into the images. So I want to make sure all of these are checked as well. So again, just like we did with tone, make sure that you have a complete circle here for the color option. All right. Everything else is really up to you. If you want to apply noise and sharpening, I will say if you use denoise and maybe denoise is, or no noise, I'm sorry, not denoise. If you denoised your image, then maybe you'll want to use that. And I would probably make a preset with noise reduction and a preset without noise reduction, just to make sure you're getting the best overall looks, or at least options for the looks. All right. And then it also helps with system resources. So it's a win-win in that regard. But for my preset, I'm just going to turn off the noise and sharpening. Lens corrections you can leave on, and then transform, you can leave that on or turn it off. I would probably say turn it off, just in case you have like some weird geometry issues with your image. But you can always go into that section on the particular image and edit that later. So we're good to go. All right. Once that's all said and done, I'm just going to hit save. And if I come back over to my FWP presets, which are, it's not that one. I got a lot of preset packs that I'm working. So here it is, and then generic develop. And then over here, we called that one bright color. So it's going to be up at the top. Now, this is a good time to talk about naming convention for your presets. You can name them whatever you want. In my mind, these names that I have, they make sense because it helps me remember what it is that I'm looking for. All right. But what I'm going to do is just click on dark and moody, and you'll see that this is going to change these settings over here. All right. And I just wanted to change the settings so that way I can show you that when I click on bright color, I now get the new bright color setup. And then it's also using landscape as the camera profile. This is still set to as shot. So this brings me back to the original place where I created the preset. Now, of course, it's a global edit. So if for some reason this is just way too strong in certain areas, let's say it's just too bright, well, I can come over here to the exposure section and I can pull down on the exposure until it gets to a point where I'm the most comfortable. And you do that on an image basis. So the whole point here is to get you through the raw editing process as fast and as smoothly as possible. And then there are also looks that you appreciate on your images, right? And then once you have that, then you can say, okay, I like the way this looks. Let's come back over here and find another preset pack that comes with ON1. One of those is going to be the travel pack. It's right here. So if I wanted to, I can just hover over travel T5, and I'm going to add that. Now, notice when I add it, it doesn't change my develop settings because the presets that come with ON1, they don't have develop settings added to them, which is really, really good. Instead, all they have are effects. And that allows you to essentially edit in a two-step process. And that's why I said that you can edit in 2 clicks. The first one is adding your develop preset. And then the second one is by adding in the effects preset. So as you start to work and build out your own catalog of presets, just put them in separate folders. Put one folder, or category, I should say. Make one category that is your develop only presets, and then make another category that are your effects only presets. And then it'll make it that much easier for you to go and edit all of your images as you move forward using ON1. So that's as easy as it is. Now, if you're finding value in this content up to this point, go ahead and smash the like button and consider subscribing if you are brand new. Now, if you want to learn how to use ON1 Photo RAW, consider signing up for a coaching call with me. A link for that is down in the description box below. And I'll help you learn exactly what I'm teaching here or anything else that you're trying to figure out about ON1 Photo RAW. Now, let's go ahead and jump back into the video because there's a few more things that I want to show you. So as you can see, I have went ahead and edited this particular image. This is where we left off, but you're probably wondering like, all right, Chris, does this work for other styles of images? Well, the answer is yes. So let's just go ahead and open up Film Strip here so we can cycle through a few images. We're going to go from a waterfall image to a food image. Now, I don't know about you, but waterfalls and food do not go hand in hand. So we're going to go back over to the FWP testing ground, generic develop, and I'm going to show you a cool trick that you can use to kind of be able to see like, what does this preset do to the image without me having to hover over each one? So if you come up to the top, after you go to the folder where your presets are located, if you come up to the top and click this little 4 square item, and I have these thumbnails set to large. You can make them smaller if you need to, but I like to have them set to large so that way I can really see what's happening here. And all I have to do is scroll through and find one that I think makes sense for this particular image. And that's what's so beautiful about working in this way. And it doesn't have to be perfect as I'm looking at it. It just needs to give me the look baseline, 90% of what I'm going for. So I like the one that's over here. So that's my saturated contrast look. So I'm going to click that and it has now applied this to the image. And I don't think I need to do anything more with this. So now I can come over to my presets again, and I can come up to culinary, which is another one that comes with ON1. And of course, if you have preset packs that you've purchased, then you can use those. And if you want to pick up preset packs from ON1, then consider using my coupon code FreeWillPhotos20 when you check out. I do make a commission from that, but it's at no extra charge to you, and I greatly appreciate it. All right. So if I want to, I can do the exact same thing again by clicking that 4 square, and then I can add in a style for this particular image. And I think that this one works good, culinary 9. And so in literally 2 clicks this time, at least, I was able to go from this image to this image. And I think that that's ready, like that's commercial ready, in my personal opinion. You let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. We're going to do one more, and we are going to go from food. Let's go with a, you know what? We'll go with an animal. Oh, look, we have a cat here. Yay. All right. So we're going to go back 1, and then let's go to the testing grounds. And again, if you don't have as many presets installed as I do, this isn't going to be too hard to jump around. And you probably also won't have them in multiple folders like I do. So you're watching me navigate a little bit more than you may need to. All right. Just wanted to call that out. But nonetheless, I'm back over here in my generic develop presets. So we'll click the 4 square, and you know, for this image, I think I actually like bright color, but let's take a look at some of the other options. Neutral color punch isn't too bad. Saturated contrast, I don't know what it is about this particular look, but I keep gravitating towards it. But I want to show you that you don't have to use the same one over and over again. So maybe I will go with, you know what? I'm going to go with bright color. And I like bright color to a degree, but I feel like there may just be a little too much color. And this is where editing comes in. So you're going to have to click a little bit more than 2 times, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and click on develop, and let's just close down our film strip here and get a little bit more real estate. And look at that saturation. That thing is pumped all the way up. Let's just go ahead and pull the saturation back a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean a whole lot, because I went heavy handed with the saturation on that particular preset. And then I think it's also a little too bright. So what I'll do is I'll add in a little bit of depth by pulling down on the shadows. And just like that, I'm really liking what I'm getting here. And I may even bring down the exposure just a little bit and then pull up on my blacks to fade the black point. So that way I get like this faded look on the image. So here's the before and here's the after so far. So now that I think I have the base color and the base tone the way that I want, I can come over here to my presets and let's find one that may work out quite well. Let's go with dark forest. It's again another preset pack that comes with ON1. And let's go with something like, I think this DF3 looks okay. So we can go ahead and put that on there. Not quite sure if I like it entirely. And so this is where you can click on effects and then I can pull down the opacity of the effect overall and then just pull it up until it fades in to the point that I think it's going to work out the best. So maybe around 30, 38 works well. And if I want to see what this looks like, and this is a power tip for those who use ON1 regularly, you're going to love this. If I want to turn off just the effects without having to pull a slider or anything like that, like if I just want to have an on-off button, what I can do is come up here to layers. If layers is hidden on your instance of ON1, just go ahead and click it. It'll expand. And if you hover over the image, you'll see a little chevron or an arrow. When you click that, it's going to give you an expansion for develop and effects. And you can literally just press the little button here to turn off effects and turn it back on. And you can see what it's doing to the image overall, giving us a nice little style. I like what it's given us, so I'll call that good. So there you have a really, really easy way of adding a tonal contrast range to your image and then adding on a style that you find or think is good for the look of the image. This is really going to help for those who are starting out with raw editing and just don't understand or know where they want to go with their images or what to do once they get them inside of ON1. This is also going to help everyone become a little bit more consistent with getting the same looks on their image. Not the same style, but the same feel, the same cohesion of their collections. All right. It's important that we do that. And, you know, sometimes maybe you want to veer off from that. But for me, I like to keep my looks very similar to one another, even if I'm photographing an animal, food, landscape, or a person. Doesn't matter. I want to make sure people know that I did that edit job. And that's the whole point of using these presets to get you to that point. Let me know what your questions are in your comments down below. Is this something that you are excited to try out on your own images? If you run into issues, let me know. But of course, you can always sign up for a coaching call and I will help you resolve whatever issues you're running into when it comes to building these presets. Until next time, I want you to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.